What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a bit of a long video to bring to you guys today, discussing, I guess, some of the worrying signs of the Chicago Bulls and some of the reasons why I have slowly but surely lost some of the faith, if not all of the faith, in this Chicago Bulls team. Now, I'm going to specify very early that this video is not here to change your mind. This video is not here to say you shouldn't, I guess, not lose faith in this team. This is not a video saying that you shouldn't have hope. At the end of the day, your emotions and your feelings are purely your own, and I highly recommend that you do not change your mind unless you really do feel the way that I potentially feel. If you want to stand by your belief in the Chicago Bulls team, the way that it's currently constructed, the system in place, and everything of that nature, I highly recommend that you do so, because I do not want to change your mind. But I recently said against the Golden State Warriors in the game reaction, I have lost my faith in this team, I have lost my faith in the coaching staff, and I think big changes need to be made. And I want to give you my reasons why I feel that way. So I'm going to be talking about some of the worrying signs of the Chicago Bulls, and I guess my emotions and feelings behind them. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and whether or not you agree or disagree with some of the points that I'm going to be making today. This will be a little bit of a longer video, so if you're here to watch and analyze what I'm having to say, great. But obviously, if you're not looking for negativity, I highly recommend you maybe go and watch a different video, because this video might not be for you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to be as composed as possible. I'm not here to say anything negatively about the players themselves. I'm not going to be saying everybody's trash or everybody needs to get traded, but I will specify some of the issues I have, and some of them are with the players, some of them are with the front office, some of them are with the coaching staff. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is inconsistency in all four quarters. I guess an example of this would be the first quarter for the Chicago Bulls, which has always been a talking point for this team. We've always had bad start to games, inconsistent start to games, huge deficits in games and stuff like that. Our third quarter performances coming out of halftime, very lackluster, not really bringing the energy. And our fourth quarter performance, I believe we are 2-9 in terms of clutch moments or clutch games with other NBA teams. We have won 2 games and we've lost 9 of them, something along those lines. So that, ladies and gentlemen, shows inconsistency in all 4 quarters, and that's usually a sign of an inconsistent team, a team that's not necessarily very good. So as a Bulls team, we've got to build ourselves out of that and find some consistency. I don't know how we can do that. I don't personally know if that can be done, but we're going to have to try, ladies and gentlemen. But something I feel like can be changed is inconsistency in our energy levels. How many blowouts have we had this year? I've said it countless times, and I always forget certain games, so I'm not going to specify all of them. But go and look at the Chicago Bulls results. I can guarantee you will see at least 4 blowouts that the Chicago Bulls have suffered this year. So with all that being said, I feel like the Bulls' energy levels is a big talking point, and how I don't feel like our energy levels have matched what this team should be. Now, this is something Billy Donovan has even said. This is something Zach LaVine has said after that Denver Nuggets game, how they were questioning the Bulls' lack of effort, and how they were saying that Denver played harder than the Chicago Bulls, and how a performance like that was unacceptable at home. So this is a point that the players are very well aware of. So, with that in mind, this is something that needs to be resolved. And even until now, after the Denver Nuggets game, all the way until now, I feel like our inconsistency in our energy levels is a big problem. We lost the game against the Golden State Warriors, and I personally felt the energy was actually much better. I thought it was very, very good. But obviously, there are more reasons why we lost to the Golden State Warriors, but that energy is not consistent at the whole time. Our energy was not the same against the Phoenix Suns. It wasn't the same against the Pelicans. It wasn't the same against Denver. It wasn't the same against the Cavs. So, big problem there, ladies and gentlemen. The next thing I want to talk about is isolation and hero ball. This is pretty much referring to Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, most of the time at least, purely because of them being our superstars and they love to play isolation. DeMar DeRozan, isolation player, we know this, we've been experiencing this over the last 2 years. Zach LaVine, isolation player, tough contested shots. We've been experiencing this for a long period of time as well. So, in saying that, I feel like this is the responsibility of the whole team. It's not the responsibility of just Zach LaVine. It's not the responsibility of just DeMar DeRozan. This whole team has to take accountability for this. One, they're not the only guys that does this. I want you to remember this. There are certain times in which guys like Kobe White is playing isolation and gets himself into trouble. Even Patrick Williams with his mid-range shots, sometimes he plays a little bit of isolation and he gets himself into trouble. They're not the only guys that does it, ladies and gentlemen, but they do it a lot more because they're the superstars. They take the most shots, therefore they do the most isolation plays. They do the most hero ball plays. And they have to take full responsibility of that. But it's also on other players as well, because there are certain guys that are not in the position to help these guys like DeMar, like Zach, not play from isolation. It's the coaching staff fault for allowing this to happen for however long it's been. It's the other players' fault for not getting themselves more aggressive and not being more involved in the game. And it's DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine's fault for being the guys that continues to take these types of shots when it should not be happening, and it's been happening for a long time now. So I put hero and isolation ball on the entire team. It needs to be a structure in place where something like that is simply not always going to happen. So isolation in small doses is fine. But right now, we are not seeing isolation in small doses. We are seeing isolation constantly by this team, and it is simply not good enough. Let's move into another worrying sign. I want to talk about the big three not playing well together. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, ladies and gentlemen. I don't necessarily have the stat with me, but I want to ask you a question. When was the last time, or how many times I should say, have we seen the Chicago Bulls big three this year score 20 points on the same night, respectively, together, ladies and gentlemen? They all have the capability to get 20 points every single night. And we've probably already seen some of them score 20 points on any given night. But how many times have they done it together? Usually when the big three plays well, we win the game. But there's always one person in that big three that doesn't live up to their caliber. So with all that in mind, what other players, or how many times have you seen the big three, those players, have great nights together? How many times have they scored 20 plus together? If you know the answer, let me know in the comments below. But I personally don't think it's a large amount this year. And I definitely think that's a big reason as to why we're losing. Arguably, one of the biggest reasons as to why we're losing. So, yeah, not necessarily happy with that. But also, I think another problem and worrying sign that we have is that we're not getting our young guys involved in the offense more. I'm talking more specifically about Ayo Dosunmu, Patrick Williams, and Kobe White. There are other guys that I won't necessarily mention in this vein because they don't necessarily play a whole lot. But those guys are the ones that I'm talking about, where I feel like a lot of their offense are generated by themselves. They're getting themselves their own offense. No plays are being called for them. No plays are being run through them. And at the end of the day, they are basically just role players that are considered the future of the Chicago Bulls team. So many fans believe Ayo Dosunmu is going to be a future point guard for the Chicago Bulls team for the next 10 years. But he needs to learn early how to run the offense, how to run the offense through him sometimes as well, how he can generate certain plays and he can make certain plays. Same with Patrick Williams. How is he supposed to be the third or second scoring option in the future when there's no plays ever being run for Patrick Williams right now? Even in small doses, it's not happening. He's generating his own offense. The way that I see Patrick Williams and Ayo Dosunmu's future going for the Chicago Bulls, if they're going to be here for the next 10 years, is they're going to be isolation players. Honestly, I really hope that's not going to be the case if they are here for the next 10 years or whatever the case may be. But they're learning from an isolation-based system as young players right now. They're learning from DeMar, they're learning from Zach, they're learning from this entire team and how isolation-orientated it is. So how can you expect these guys to not be isolation players when they grow older and when they become the leaders of this team? It's as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. They have to learn young. They have to learn the Bulls, I guess, schemes, systems. They have to learn everything like that in the future. And if it doesn't get any better, if they're not more involved right now, they're not identifying when to make a pass or when they need to cut and stuff like that, then all they're going to be is isolation players when they grow up or when they end up being the vocal points of this team. How can Patrick Williams be a second first option if right now all he is getting is his own offense from himself? No one else is creating plays for him. And the same with Ayo Dosunmu. So I hope we don't necessarily see that, but I feel like I'm very worried about that, and I don't know if many people are talking about that anywhere near enough. But if we do not see this Bulls team change the way that they play and the style they play and getting these guys more involved in the offense from now, I feel like when they do become the cornerstones of this team, if they do, all we're going to see is isolation from them, because that's all they've learned to do. That's all they really know what to do as well. So we've got to learn from that and be very, very careful about that situation. Let's talk about something else. Huge deficits. Kind of already talked about this a little bit earlier, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk about it now as well. Not necessarily just bad starts, but the Bulls are the comeback Bulls. They're the inconsistent Bulls. They're fighting from deficits almost every single game. I don't necessarily, for some reasons, it's always different reasons for why we are, but that is a big problem for the Chicago Bulls, and that is simply unacceptable. We need to learn how we can manage games better when we have the leads. But how can we manage a game from a lead if we never have a lead? How can we manage a game from a lead if we're fighting back from comeback Bulls 25 points down every single game? So that is a big part, in my opinion, of our big problems, and that needs to be rectified as well. Turnovers. Last 3 years, really, ever since this Bulls channel was created, I've been talking about turnovers and how big of a problem it was. I think the lowest point in which we had the least amount of turnovers was when Lonzo Ball was playing for the Chicago Bulls team. And I feel Lonzo Ball will make a big difference in that avenue. I do not think we'll turn the ball over as much with Lonzo Ball in the team. But that could just be me. We have a big turnover issue, and it's continuing to be a big problem even until now. And same as the fouls. This team has a huge problem in fouling. Last year, huge problem in fouling. And I guess because we are one of the top deflection teams in the NBA, which is a very big positive, by the way, that does obviously come with a lot of fouls as well. It's very, very frustrating at the end of the day to see something like that, but I don't know if that can necessarily be changed. I feel like that's part of our culture. That's who we are. We're a team that fouls. We're a team that does not necessarily play the cleanest defense in the world. And we put people at the free throw line. And we have seen that. I mean, we've seen Jason Tatum shoot probably his career high in free throws against the Chicago Bulls, or at least season high as something like that. So, again, that is a big problem for us. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, unfortunately. Maybe if we get a little bit bigger, we could probably protect the paint better. But yeah, we are constantly fouling these players. Transition play. Another big worrying sign for the Chicago Bulls. Our transition play has been close to non-existent. And the frustrating part about this is we play best when we're in transition. If you look at the Golden State Warriors game, how did we come back from that game from 19 points down? A lot of it was Golden State turned the ball over and they bricked a lot of shots in the second half of that game, and the Bulls ran out in transition. Ayo Dosunmu layups, Zach LaVine layups, Goran Dragic layups, Javonte Green layups. All these from transition brought us back into this game against the Golden State Warriors. We play at our best when we're running, but I actually feel like there are most teams in the NBA that outrun the Chicago Bulls. We are not a team that simply outruns everybody. And again, it goes back to working harder than other teams, which was, again, an energy issue. So that correlates to some of the other problems we had earlier on in the video. But again, I feel like we're at our best when we're running, and we're just simply not running, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move into the next one, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to talk a little bit about the coach. Now, some of these problems, I'm going to wait and see if they have been resolved, because I'm talking mainly about coaching adjustments and coaching rotations. At the end of the day, he made adjustments recently in his Golden State Warriors game. He rotated Ayo and Caruso, swapped their positions basically. Ayo coming off the bench, Caruso starting. Same with Javonte Green and Patrick Williams. I want to give them some time to see if that will work. Because if it works, that's a positive under Billy Donovan's name. And same with the rotations. But for now, I'm considering them a problem and a worrying sign, because last year we wanted big adjustments that simply were not done. We wanted rotations that simply were not done. And Billy Donovan was very stubborn in that area. We'll wait and see if this change can hopefully be a big positive for the Chicago Bulls. The small ball lineup. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that we are seeing Derrick Jones Jr. still play at the center position from time to time really irritates me, ladies and gentlemen. I personally feel And again, we'll talk a little bit more about this later. I personally feel that we have so many guys that are wasted on this team right now. It's absolutely frustrating. But the small ball position for the Chicago Bulls, I think we work well when we're a small ball team. But the problem is we overuse it so much. It's not a sustainable way of playing for the Chicago Bulls. We have Nikola Vucevic, we have Andre Drummond on this team that are bigger bodies that can make this team very, very big and can make this team very, very good on rebounding and stuff like that. We can play bigger ball and actually have it work out for us. But again, a transition team that we supposedly are, we're not running. You could classify that as a little bit of a big ball tactic as well. But also, we don't have a small ball center. So why are we playing Derrick Jones Jr. as a small ball center and we're expecting this team to work well with the small ball lineups? Why are we persisting on doing this to ourselves? We are hurting ourselves sometimes. I said it can work in small doses. It can work 2 to 3 minutes at a time, create some really unique stops, and then we can go and run out and transition because that's what a small ball lineup can do. But until we actually get a proper small ball center, we are hurting ourselves by doing that. If that's the direction we want to go down, go and get a good quality small ball center and then use your small ball lineup and maybe it can work out a lot better. But it's absolutely frustrating that that is what we're really going down to, and we overuse it so much to the point where it hurts us. The game against the Pelicans. This is a game that I will always remember in my head. Jonas Valanciunas was brought back into the game when we brought our small ball lineup, and he generated absolute chaos for this Chicago Bulls team, and we were forced to foul him, and we couldn't stop him, and it brought easy points to the Pelicans team. Good coaching by the Pelicans coach, and very bad coaching from the Chicago Bulls, because we thought small ball would work against the Pelicans, who are one of the biggest teams in the NBA, and they can play power forwards and centers that are absolutely massive compared to our Bulls counterparts. So not good enough in my opinion in that avenue, and small ball has hurt us when we overuse it. Ladies and gentlemen, where is Dalen Terry? Another big worrying sign. Our rookie, ladies and gentlemen, has got little to no game time this year. We selected Dalen Terry, the 18th overall pick in the NBA draft. Some people said that was a pick we shouldn't have picked Dalen Terry, whatever the case may be. But at this point, Dalen Terry is someone that I feel like we could use. Again, we are struggling. We are so inconsistent. And we need changes. Dalen Terry can be one of those guys we can bring in that can make those changes happen. He's a good communicator. He's a very vocal person. And of course, he's a player that runs out in transition. He does a lot of positive things that the Bulls clearly like. But we're not using him. Why aren't we using him? We have a big player development problem, and I feel like Dalen Terry and Marcus Dominovic are leading examples of that. Even until now, our development has not always been strong, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact that we are having players that are young and wasting their time on this team is really ridiculous. Marcus Dominovic especially, but Dalen Terry, my goodness, man, is that a guy that I feel like so many people are asking for? We at least want to see him get a chance. And this team sucks so much that he probably deserves a chance. And we're not seeing it happen, ladies and gentlemen. We're persisting on the same guys that are letting us down. So I hope in the future Dalen Terry can get some minutes. Even if it's small minutes. It's better than just the 1 minute garbage time minutes that he's currently playing. So where is Dalen Terry? Let's bring him in and see what he can do. And speaking of this, Tony Bradley and Marcus Dominovic. There are 2 contracts on this team that I feel like can definitely be changed. Tony Bradley should not be a Chicago Bull. I think this is the front office's fault. Because at the end of the day, he's not even our 3rd choice center. He's literally our 4th choice center, probably even our 5th choice center at this point. So why is he here? Is he here to just fill a roster spot? At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we can get a good shooter, some good shooters. There are surely some good shooters out there that could play for the Chicago Bulls team. But we're filling this spot for a 7-footer who is not playing because we want to use a small ball lineup. Tony Bradley should not be here, ladies and gentlemen. No disrespect to Tony Bradley. I personally think he's a very good 3rd choice center, but he's clearly not favored. So if he's not favored, why is he here? Why can't we get somebody else that can make this team much more effective from the 3-point line? I'm sure there are guys that are not necessarily the best defenders in the world but can shoot the 3-point shot, which is exactly what we need. If I saw the way that this team was currently playing from last season, if I knew what I know now last season or making these decisions, I personally would have kept Matt Thomas as the 50th man on this team, and I would have cut Tony Bradley. honestly, that's what I would have done. Because at this point, we don't need Tony Bradley because he doesn't play. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He can play every single game if he wanted to. But the Bulls don't choose him. The Bulls don't pick him. So why is he still here? Big problem there. There's easily a guy like Carmelo Anthony that is going to be in the corner. They're ready to catch and shoot at all times. Make our three-point shooting a little bit better. And we simply cannot see it. We don't see it. It's not good enough. And then obviously Marcus Seminovic has not played in the NBA this year for the Chicago Bulls, from my understanding. If he's a guy that we truly believe in, make him a two-way contract spot. Because he's wasting a contract spot, sitting on the bench, playing in the G League, not necessarily doing a whole lot for this team. And the harsh reality is that's two spots that could easily be put to better use. Malcolm Hill, not gotten any game time in the NBA either, and neither has Kostas Antetokounmpo. So you could easily get rid of one of those guys to put Marco on a two-way and go and pursue another player. Go and pursue a player that can actually really make a difference to this team now. He doesn't have to play every single game, the player that we bring in. But if we desperately need three-point shooting, bring that guy in and see. There are certain moments in the game, 2-3 minutes per game even, he could play and make a difference. We are struggling in that department, and I put that on the front office. Something else I put on the front office, the lack of communication and transparency with this Bulls team from the top level to the fans, the community. Us, let's say. Not transparent about Lonzo Ball's injury. Whether they knew or not really transparent. We thought he was coming back in January. He's still out a year later, ladies and gentlemen. Not transparent. Very much all the answers was, I don't know. And everything of that nature. A lot of the updates didn't necessarily even come from the Chicago Bulls. It came from Shams. It came from Woj. It came from guys that, yes, we could understand and we know that they're going to get it first because they are very top reporters and this is their job to do. But at the same time, Bulls transparency, even when we did know, was very, very small. Not transparent about Zach LaVine's injury. Everyone said Zach LaVine's 100%. Zach LaVine is not 100%. He himself admits he has issues in his knee. Not transparent at all. Not transparent at all in terms of the coaching extension of Billy Donovan. Didn't hear a single peep about it, and that was done at the beginning of the season at least. I cannot think of another situation where that's ever happened, where we're hiding the fact that we extended our head coach. Yes, I know a lot of people don't like Billy Donovan right now, but this is something that Bulls fans need to know about, whether they like it or not. We could take the negativity, we could take the positivity, but at the end of the day, hiding it made no sense, even until now. I don't know why they did that. Not a lot of transparency, not a lot of communication. But of course, give credit where it's due. Billy Donovan gave a very honest opinion and update on Lonzo Ball, and I thank him for being honest, and I thank him for communicating with the Bulls. But for the most part, very, very poor transparency and communication issues. I also want to talk about the luxury tax issue. This Bulls team didn't go into the luxury tax at the beginning of the year, which was obviously a very big talking point this season. So at the end of the day, with that in mind, maybe they were right to not do it because this Bulls team is struggling and it sucks. It's not very good. But at the end of the day, I wish solely in my heart that if we did see this Bulls team go into the luxury tax, this team could have been different. We could have got different guys. But at the end of the day, Goran Dragic and Andre Drummond are doing great jobs. I really like both the signings. So maybe there's just nothing we could have done in that avenue. And it is what it is. It's very, very frustrating that we're talking about this. But again, it's something that I did want to bring to your attention. I also wanted to bring to your attention, you might not think it's a big deal that the Bulls didn't go into the luxury tax, but I believe there was a report earlier on in the year saying the Bulls have only entered the luxury tax once in their entire existence. In their entire reign, they've only been to the luxury tax once. That doesn't seem like owners that really want to win, ladies and gentlemen. But again, maybe in this instance, they made the right choice because this Bulls team is really, really struggling at the moment. Last but not least, the Lonzo Ball situation. I want to talk a little bit about it. Obviously, one worrying sign is that Lonzo Ball is injury prone at this point, and we're hoping he can get better in that avenue, get back to 100%, and hopefully have no more injuries throughout the course of his NBA career. But me personally, the worrying sign is that a lot of people are really relying on Lonzo Ball to save our season. I have about a half an hour video talking about all the problems with the Chicago Bulls. And I'm sorry, Lonzo Ball can't fix all of them. He makes us better. I will never deny that. I think he's a great player. And people don't like Lonzo Ball. I like Lonzo Ball. I think he was having close to a historic defensive year last year. I think he was going to have one of his best years in total last year until he got injured. But we're relying on someone that can't stay healthy to save our year, save our season, and we're just simply relying on one guy to save us. And that is not a good way to approach a season, ladies and gentlemen. So that in itself is a worrying sign. And those are all the worrying signs I have to talk to you guys about today. A very long video, frustrating video, definitely hard to make. But I said recently in the game reaction, I lost faith in the Bulls team. And this is the reasons why. And if you've noticed a lot about this, what I've been saying these things over the last 2 years. There's nothing necessarily new in this video that I've never, ever talked about before. A lot of this stuff, a lot of people have talked about already. But things begin to boil up, bubble up, and they all, I guess, it gets to a point where all these things add up and you're just completely flustered and frustrated at the point of all these miserable things happening for the Chicago Bulls. And again, this is the reason why I've lost faith. But again, if you haven't lost faith, great. I hope you still have hope, and I hope your hope and your faith will make this team much better. And I hope I could get my faith back in this team. I will continue to support them. I'll continue to criticize them. I'll be happy when we win. I'll be sad when we lose. I'll be a typical Bulls fan. But know this about what I feel. I don't believe this team, the way that it's currently constructed, can really get the job done in terms of the goals that I had for them. I wanted this team at the beginning of the year to make top 4 in terms of the Eastern Conference and to get out of the first round. And right now, we're not on par to do any of them, and I don't believe we will do any of them either. That is the ultimate goal that I wanted to see this Bulls team have in terms of progressing. And I've lost my faith that they can achieve that goal. So therefore, I've lost faith in the Bulls team. And I do think changes need to be made in order for something else to happen. Try again, ladies and gentlemen. But that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you in the next Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.